They will clap when you fall. They will lean in when you break. Not to help you, but to watch. Because pain, when it's not their own, becomes entertainment. That's the world we live in now. When you expose your wounds too early, when you cry too loud, when you confess your struggles too publicly, you don't get healing, you get judgment. Your pain becomes a show. Your suffering, a scene. They won't reach out with a hand. They'll reach for their phones. They won't offer silence, they'll offer opinions. Not to lift you, but to label you. So let this be your reminder. Silence is sacred. Protect your inner battles. Not everyone who smiles at you deserves access to your truth. Not every listener is a friend. Some people wait for your weakness just to confirm what they've already decided about you. They don't want to understand you, they want to define you. And once they do, they put you in a box you can never escape. Oh, that's the one who failed. That's the one whose partner left. That's the one who lost everything. But what they forget is that ashes can become fire. And yes, you can rise. But not if you give them your power. Hold it in. Work in silence. Heal in silence. Let the world wonder how you're still standing. Let them question how someone who was broken, shattered, forgotten, is still walking with strength, with purpose, with peace. Because that mystery, that quiet transformation, that's your real power, not the spectacle, not the noise. See, some things are too sacred for the public eye. Your tears are not a performance. Your struggle is not a trend. Your healing is not for their applause. So walk alone if you must. Not because people are evil, but because your soul deserves more than shallow sympathy and temporary attention. Let your silence teach what your words never could. Because when you finally rise, and you won't owe anyone an explanation. You won't need to prove anything to those who watched and whispered. You'll know, deep within, you built yourself, you carried yourself, you became your own shelter. And that kind of strength cannot be faked, cannot be imitated. It's forged in solitude, in silence, in self-respect. So next time your heart is heavy, remember this. Don't run to tell the world. Don't make your pain a stage. Hold it, heal it, harness it. Because someday, someone will look at you and ask, how did you survive? And you'll smile, not because they deserve the answer, but because you know the power of what they never saw. There is a reason why the strongest people are often the quietest. Not because they lack emotion, but because they have learned the weight of sharing their truth with the wrong ears. In a world where people listen to respond and not to understand, silence becomes a shield. It is not weakness. It is not avoidance. It is wisdom wrapped in stillness. When you speak of your pain too soon, too openly, you run the risk of exposing your soul to those who do not know how to hold it. You hand pieces of your heart to people who may never have the intention of keeping it safe. They may smile, nod, pretend to care, but inside, they're calculating, comparing, or simply waiting for more drama to unfold. Your vulnerability becomes their curiosity. Your honesty becomes their conversation. People often ask, why shouldn't I speak up about what I'm going through? Don't I deserve to be heard? Of course you do. But the deeper question is, who are you talking to? Do they truly see you? Or are they merely looking through you, waiting for something to gossip about? The illusion of connection can be dangerous. Just because someone listens doesn't mean they care. Just because someone is present doesn't mean they are safe. Many wear masks. Some are gentle in appearance, kind in words, but carry a hunger for weakness. Your struggle becomes a tool they use to feel better about their own life. It gives them a sense of superiority, of control. They don't want your healing, they want your breaking. They're not rooting for your growth. They're silently entertained by your fall. These are not enemies in the traditional sense. They are spectators, silent observers of your chaos. And chaos, when public, becomes spectacle. This is the part most people miss. The world doesn't pause when you share your pain. It records, captures, comments. It rewinds and plays it again, looking for flaws, cracks, inconsistencies. There is no pause for compassion, no stillness for reflection. In the public eye, your suffering becomes currency. And once you allow that to happen, you can never take it back. Once your wounds are exposed, they are no longer yours alone. They belong to the crowd. That's why silence is sacred. It's not about bottling things up or pretending to be okay. It's about choosing your battles wisely, choosing your audience carefully. You don't owe anyone access to your inner world just because they ask. You don't have to bleed in front of everyone to prove that you're in pain. Some healing happens in solitude. Some strength is built in the quiet moments where no one is watching. When you are struggling, the most powerful thing you can do is become still. Not passive, not defeated, just still. There is clarity in silence. There is power in restraint. Not everything needs to be said. Not every emotion needs to be shared in real time. Sometimes the storm inside you is meant to teach you, not entertain others. The more you protect your inner world, the more you learn about who you really are, without the noise of other people's opinions, without the distortion of outside judgment. Your pain begins to speak clearly, not through drama, not through pity, but through truth. And that truth becomes your foundation, quiet, unshakable, real. People love to say, "You can talk to me," but rarely do they say, "You can trust me." Trust is not given through words. It's proven through time, presence, and consistency. And until someone earns the right to hold your truth, your silence is your safest place. It's not cold. It's not cruel. It's survival. And sometimes, it's the only thing that keeps you from falling apart in front of those who only want to watch. So be careful. The world is not always your friend. It doesn't always offer the warmth it pretends to. Many are drawn to your fire, but only to warm their hands. They do not care if you burn. They do not care if you break. Silence is not the absence of expression. It is the presence of control. It is knowing when to speak and, more importantly, when not to. When you hold your pain in sacred space, you allow yourself to process it without interference, without distortion, without performance. You give yourself the dignity of private healing, the chance to rise without explanation. This is the truth that most of us learn the hard way. We believe, in the beginning, that sharing our pain will invite compassion, that opening up will create a bridge between us and others. But what we often find is that the world is full of eyes that observe, not hearts that understand. People see your struggle not as something sacred, but as something to evaluate, to analyze, to label. They don't step into your shoes. They stand at a distance and form conclusions from the outside. They're not interested in the complexity of your pain. They want the summary, the scandal, the spectacle. There is a kind of satisfaction some people get from seeing others fall. It affirms something inside them. Maybe it distracts them from their own emptiness. Maybe it gives them a fleeting sense of superiority. But whatever the reason, it's not uncommon. When you're hurting, you might expect someone to reach out and help, but instead, they retreat and talk. They gather details. They exaggerate your flaws. They frame your suffering in their own narrative. And suddenly, your personal battle becomes their entertainment. Your worst moments become someone else's best story. People are not always cruel with intention. Some are simply unconscious. They don't even realize they're judging you, they just react. They interpret your actions through their own lens, shaped by their own fears and biases. And once they make up their minds, it's hard to change them. You could explain yourself, justify your decisions, share your reasons, but their opinion was never built on truth. It was built on assumption, on convenience, on the need to feel right. Judgment is easy. It takes no effort to look at someone else's situation and point a finger. It's easier to say, "They failed," than to ask, "What pain are they carrying?" It's easier to say, "They're weak," than to wonder, "What battles have they survived?" But that's the way the world often works. People don't look deeper unless they are forced to. And by then, the damage is already done. Your name has already passed through too many mouths. Your story has already been reshaped too many times. This is why being vulnerable in front of everyone is dangerous. Because the moment you fall, people don't ask if you're okay. They ask what happened. They want details. They want the full picture, not to help you but to satisfy their curiosity. They look for signs of guilt, They look for reasons to validate their opinions. And they will use your suffering as evidence of your failure, even when it was simply life being life. When people watch, they often do so passively. They don't step in. They don't hold space. They don't carry any of the weight. They just watch and talk and talk and talk. They may dress it in concern. They may pretend it's out of care. But underneath, it's just judgment. The kind that wounds more deeply than silence ever could. When you express your pain publicly, you give the world a lens into your most fragile moments. And if the wrong people are looking through that lens, they will not see a soul in need of grace. They will see a character in a story they can twist, a plot they can predict, a failure they can point to when their own life feels out of control. It's not that your pain is invalid. It's that it becomes devalued in the wrong hands. People often say they care, but when the time comes to show it, they vanish. They show up only to observe, to compare, to gossip. Their silence in your support is louder than any words they spoke before. And even if they stay, their presence may not be pure. Some want to witness your downfall firsthand. Not to help, but to confirm their expectations. Not to heal, but to feed their own emptiness. It's important to understand this, not to grow bitter, but to grow wiser. The way people respond to your pain tells you everything you need to know about their intentions. Those who truly care will never judge you. They will never rush to conclusions. They will sit with you, even when they don't understand you. They will protect your story, not parade it. But those people are rare, and that rarity is why your struggles must be guarded, not displayed. The eyes on you are not always kind. The voices around you are not always true. The attention you receive is not always compassion. Some of it is control. Some of it is judgment. Some of it is simply curiosity disguised as care. And in the end, what people remember is not your truth. It's their version of it. There is something deeply sacred about the process of healing that the world often overlooks. In a culture that glorifies sharing, documenting, and showcasing every moment, the quiet work of inner transformation has become undervalued. But real healing doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens when no one is watching, when the noise fades, and when the only voice left is your own. In those moments, away from judgment, comparison, and performance, you begin to truly see yourself, not as others see you, but as you are. Healing is not a performance. It's not about showing the world how strong or brave you are. It's not about convincing others that you're fine or trying to prove how quickly you can bounce back. Healing is messy. It's inconsistent. Some days feel like progress and others feel like collapse. And when you try to heal under the eyes of others, you start to shape your journey around their expectations, not your truth. You start editing your pain, hiding the parts that don't look strong or admirable, and in doing so, you delay your own recovery. People love to witness transformation stories, but what they often want is the highlight reel. They want the before and after, not the middle. They're interested in the result, not the process. But healing doesn't come with a dramatic moment of change. It's built quietly, one difficult choice at a time. It happens in the small moments when you choose not to give up, when you face a fear you've avoided, when you forgive yourself even when the world hasn't. These are not moments for an audience. They are personal victories, too sacred to be shared. There is a pressure in today's world to always be seen, to post, to explain, to show that you're evolving. But transformation doesn't need validation. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't require an announcement. The deepest changes often happen in silence, in solitude. They aren't loud, but they are real. You wake up one day and you're no longer triggered by what used to destroy you. You speak more gently to yourself. You stop reaching for things that once gave you false comfort. These are the signs of true healing. Quiet, subtle, life-changing. When you heal privately, you protect your energy from being scattered by opinions. You keep your growth from being polluted by comparison. You allow yourself to fully experience every emotion without performing for anyone. There's no need to smile for the camera. No need to explain your tears. No pressure to package your pain into something inspirational. It just is. And that raw honesty is where true transformation begins. You start to realize that not everyone deserves to witness your process. Not because they are bad, but because your healing is not theirs to interpret. When you keep it private, you stay connected to your own inner compass. You're not swayed by praise or criticism. You're not distracted by whether others think you're moving fast enough or doing it the right way. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to respect your own timeline. And you begin to grow in ways that no one else needs to see to be real. There is also safety in privacy. The world can be harsh. Even when you share your growth with good intentions, it can be misread, misunderstood, even mocked. And that kind of response can slow you down, make you second-guess yourself, make you question if you're actually making progress at all. But when you heal privately, there's no audience to please, no performance to maintain. You're free to feel, to fall, to rise again, all without interference. Healing privately is not about isolation. It's about intimacy with yourself. It's about getting so honest with your own heart that you no longer need external noise to tell you who you are. You stop seeking approval. You stop chasing attention. You realize that your journey is yours alone, and no one can walk it for you or understand it the way you do. Transformation is not about proving anything. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. And that version of you doesn't need applause to be real. It only needs truth, time, and the willingness to sit with your own pain until it no longer controls you. When you honor your process in private, you protect its power. You give yourself the space to fall apart and rebuild without judgment, without pressure, without noise. There is a kind of strength that doesn't announce itself. It grows slowly, without an audience, in places where no one is watching. It is not born from applause or validation. It's born in silence, in stillness, in those long nights when you're left alone with nothing but your own thoughts. This kind of strength doesn't demand recognition. It doesn't wear a badge or ask for praise. It is invisible at first, but unshakable in the long run. It is built in the quiet moments when you choose not to give up, even though giving up seems easier. Solitude isn't just the absence of others. It's the presence of yourself. It's where you hear your truest voice without the noise of other people's opinions. When you're alone, you begin to see the patterns you've been stuck in. You see the ways you've relied on others to define your worth. And you start to understand that real strength is not found in how many people comfort you, but in how deeply you can sit with your own pain and not let it destroy you. Sympathy can feel good. It's a soft place to fall, but it can also become a trap. When people feel sorry for you, they may mean well, but their concern can subtly convince you that you're broken, that you need saving, that you're somehow weaker because you're hurting. You begin to shape your identity around the role of the one who suffers. And even though it brings attention, it also creates dependency. You wait for others to lift you, to remind you of your value, to make you feel whole again. But no one can do that for you. There comes a point where you realize that the hands reaching out to help cannot carry what you must carry yourself. You begin to understand that healing, growth, and strength are deeply personal journeys that no one else can walk for you. You stop looking outward for rescue, and you begin turning inward for resilience. That's where strength begins, in the choice to stop waiting, in the decision to face your struggle head-on, without needing someone to cushion your fall. When you learn to stand in your own pain without crumbling, you become powerful. Not because you never feel fear or sadness, but because you stop being ruled by them. You stop needing others to approve of your progress. You stop explaining your process to people who don't understand. You stop proving your worth and start living from it. That shift only happens in solitude. It happens when you strip away the noise and come face to face with yourself. You begin to see that the strength people admire from the outside was carved in moments they'll never see. The self-control, the discipline, the emotional endurance, all of it forged in silence. Not under the soft light of sympathy, but under the harsh light of personal responsibility. You realize that no one owes you healing. No one owes you understanding. And while compassion is beautiful, it is not a substitute for courage. In solitude, you learn to make peace with your own reflection. You learn to forgive yourself, to hold yourself accountable, to rebuild the parts of you that others didn't notice were broken. That kind of rebuilding takes patience, takes grit, and it takes the willingness to keep going even when no one cheers you on. Because when you finally stand tall again, it's not because someone pulled you up. It's because you refused to stay down. The truth is, strength doesn't always look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like tears wiped away in silence. Sometimes it looks like waking up and choosing to try again, even though nothing has changed. It's in the effort, the quiet persistence, the refusal to give up, even when the world offers no reward. That kind of strength can't be taught, can't be gifted, can only be built one choice at a time. The more time you spend in solitude, the more unshakable you become, because you stop needing permission to grow. You stop relying on sympathy to survive. You find your rhythm, your clarity, your direction. And once you've found that, no one can take it from you. Not because you shouted your strength, but because you earned it in silence. There is a certain pressure in this world to constantly explain, to justify your silence, to defend your distance, to make others comfortable with the path you've chosen. And if you don't, you're labeled cold, distant, arrogant, or worse, misunderstood. But the truth is, every time you over-explain your decisions, you hand over a piece of your inner peace. You give someone else a vote in your life's direction. And not everyone deserves that power. The need to explain often comes from fear. Fear of being misjudged, of being talked about, of being seen as selfish or wrong. We want to protect our image, protect the truth as we see it. But in trying to defend our integrity, we often invite more noise, more assumptions, more chaos. Because not everyone is listening to understand. Some are listening to twist your words, to find fault, to project their own insecurities onto your choices. And the more you explain, the more material you give them. Not everyone will see your heart, no matter how clearly you speak. Not everyone will grasp your intentions, no matter how carefully you word them. People hear through their filters, their own wounds, their own beliefs, their own egos. You can say all the right things and still be misunderstood. You can open your soul and still be accused of hiding something. That's the risk you take when you depend on others to validate your path. There is power in being quiet, in knowing that your life does not require a panel of approval, in understanding that your truth doesn't become more real just because someone else accepts it. Your peace doesn't grow from being understood. It grows from being rooted in your own clarity. And clarity does not always need to be spoken. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. When you stop explaining yourself, you begin to reclaim your energy. You stop trying to convince others of your worth. You stop arguing for your boundaries. You stop exhausting yourself trying to please people who've already made up their minds. You begin to choose silence over defensiveness, distance over unnecessary drama, and peace over performance. That shift frees you. It detaches your sense of self from someone else's opinion. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your healing, or your growth, or your solitude, or your decisions to walk away from things that no longer serve your peace. People will ask. People will wonder. People will gossip. Let them. What they think is their path. What you live is yours, and your peace is worth more than their approval. There is a quiet dignity in letting your actions speak for themselves, in allowing time to reveal what words cannot. When you stop justifying every move, you start trusting your own rhythm. You walk lighter, think clearer, breathe deeper. You live not to be seen, but to be free. You understand that not everyone needs access to your thoughts, your motives, your heart. Some things are sacred. Some things are meant to be kept between you and the silence that helped you rise again. You're not here to be everyone's version of right. You're not here to constantly perform clarity for others. You're here to live in alignment with what brings you peace, even if it looks confusing from the outside, even if it invites whispers, even if it makes people uncomfortable. Growth will often confuse those who are committed to the old version of you. Let it. You don't have to bring everyone with you. You don't have to explain why you've changed. You just have to keep moving in the direction that feels honest. The less you explain, the more you learn about the people around you. Those who truly understand you won't need long explanations. They will trust your spirit, respect your choices, accept your boundaries. The ones who demand justification usually aren't trying to understand. You're just disrupting their illusion of who they thought you were. And that illusion was never your responsibility to maintain. The more silent you become, the more you begin to listen to yourself. You begin to ask, is this choice mine, or am I making it to avoid judgment? Am I speaking for clarity, or just to be accepted? You begin to separate your voice from the noise, your truth from their expectations, your identity from their assumptions. And in doing so, you become grounded in a peace that no one can take from you.